Well, thank you. I'm Jonathan Carmel. I'm a product manager for Android Instant Apps, and you've come to the session for an introduction to Instant Apps. So I'm really excited to highlight a lot of the partners that we have live today. Many are in the audience. But before we dive into that, let's talk about the foundation of Instant Apps, which are Android apps. We love Android apps. Android apps are getting better and better. They are fast, seamless, beautiful, and take advantage of device capabilities. Let's take a look at some of them on my home screen today. We have Ticketmaster, who has a beautiful end-to-end experience. So let's say I wanted to go see LCD Sound System. Well, I would just go into Ticketmaster. I would search for LCD Sound System. And due to NDK support and in their seat view, I can find the exact seat I want, see what it looks like in the venue, and buy right there. Next day, I can actually get into the concert with my phone. Then you have Citymapper, which has saved me a lot this week because I'm actually staying in a Mountain View hotel. And I'm riding my bike because I didn't want to hit the traffic you all hit. It's a 30-minute bike ride, and I have no idea how to navigate the backwoods of Mountain View. So I open up Citymapper, tells me the exact transit, and due to map view support, I can dive in and figure out that turn that I just missed and go back a few miles. Then you have Red Bull TV, a lean-back experience for immersive television. All of these add up to great Android apps. All of you in the crowd have done an amazing job developing apps. But you told us, in order to get that experience, you first have to install. And there's a friction point, and you don't have as many users using your best experience. So what if we could have that same experience, but just with a click, you dive into it? And that is Android Instant Apps. They are native Android apps that run instantly without installation. So let me dive into a very simple example. I have a friend, Joyce, and she loves BuzzFeed. She's on the BuzzFeed app all the time, just looking through videos. The other day, she told me that there are 7 ways to make chicken wings. Now, you and I all know that there are only 6 ways to make chicken wings. So I usually would have to download the BuzzFeed video app from the Play Store, wait, open it up, and then search for the video she's talking about. But now, all I have to do, she sends me a link, all I have to do is click, I dive right into the native app experience. And unfortunately, I find out there are actually 7 ways to make chicken wings. Now, I might not want to use BuzzFeed. I just want that experience right then and there. I don't necessarily want to save it to my phone. And with Instant Apps, you don't necessarily have to. So let's talk about a few of our additional live partners today that I'm really excited to talk about. The first one is dotloop, which is a contract signing app. I don't sign contracts every day, but when I get that email that says time sensitive, you have to sign this contract right now, and I'm in transit, I don't want to have to wait to get back to my desktop to sign. Don't worry, dotloop has you covered. They have this beautiful native app experience that really guides you through the flow, telling you how many signatures you have to have in the contract, having you flip through the contract, and then dive into the exact place you have to sign. Now, early results for dotloop have been phenomenal. They're seeing more users start that experience. There's double-digit uplift for just starting that experience because they're guiding you immediately. And then they're seeing double-digit increase for the number of signed contracts. Hotpads is another instant app that's live, and it's a real estate browsing app. Now, my wife and I are looking to move right now, or at least I believe so, because she keeps on sending me links every day about new properties. So I don't have the Hotpads app on my phone, but she does, because she's browsing properties all the time. But now when she sends me a link, I dive into this high-fidelity experience, get to flip through all the photos, look at the dimensions of that home, look at a lot of rich textual information like what schools are nearby, and then I can flip through new houses that I'm interested in. And when I'm ready, I actually can contact the broker and set up time to actually see the house. And that's exactly what Hotpads is trying to optimize for. They want you to reach out to the broker and actually see the house. And Hotpads told us that they've been optimizing their app for over 12 years. And to see the uplift they're seeing right now is significant. Let's talk about my new daily ritual, morning ritual, which is New York Times crossword. I wake up in the morning. I do a quick search to find the New York Times crossword. I open it up in google.com, and it shows a little instant badge right next to it. I dive into the instant app experience, and I get to finish the crossword immediately. And every day, I send my best time to my whole team. This is the time to beat for the day. Now, early data shows that I'm not alone, that this has become more habitual for users in the instant app. They are coming back more and more, and they're seeing significant increases in re-engagement from early data. I'm very excited to put this slide up. Today, we have 50 partners live. So I want to thank all the partners that have worked so hard to get these instant apps live today. So please give them a round of applause. We have 15 instant apps from 14 different countries. And you can see we cover a bunch of different categories. And I'll just go through a few of them. I'm sorry I'm leaving some of you out. But you can see e-commerce partners like Jet, Wish, and Ticketmaster. You can see entertainment like Vimeo, Red Bull, Viki, Tab Pro, and New York Times Crossword. Tab Pro is great if you ever want to learn guitar. You have news and publishing apps like CBC, OneFootball, and Pocket. And you have travel apps like TripIt, Skyscanner, and Citymapper. Over the last year, these partners have been extensions of our product team. They're not only trying to optimize their instant app, but they're also giving us tons of feedback on the platform and the tooling that we have in place. So a lot of the tooling that you'll check out today is due to all the hours of feedback they provided for us. So I really want to thank them again. And today at 4:30 p.m., you'll see a panel where you hear from the developers themselves. Now let's take all these apps and put them on our phone. That is a lot. Even the apps today, that is a lot of apps to fit on your phone. But thankfully, these native apps are now part of your phone. You can access them anytime, anywhere, even if it's not installed on your phone. Now, yesterday you heard that anyone can now build an instant app. So we're really excited to open it up to all of you and start seeing more and more of you develop instant apps. You can now access the documentation, download the SDK, and download the tooling. So what should you expect when you start developing an instant app? One code base, one project, and the tools you are already familiar with. You will develop in Android 3.0. The first step you'll do is begin to modularize your app and start taking the features that you already have today and breaking them up into different feature modules. And we have the tooling to help you do that and lead you along the way. And we stress the reuse of code from the installable app. So you're, again, working in one code base, one project. When you're done, you upload to the Play console. Now, you will not have to go and hire an Android Instant Apps engineer. This is the Android development you are already familiar with. And when we've talked to our 50 partners and asked them how long did it take them to develop an instant app, all apps vary. But they said on average it's about 4 to 6 weeks. So let's talk about how you prepare your use case. One thing I'll stress throughout this presentation is the importance of focusing on the action you're trying to get the users to do. So I know many of you are focused on installations, but really what you're trying to do when you develop your Android app and your instant app is get the user to read an article, watch a video, sign a contract, do a purchase, get highly engaged in your app. That is your goal. So what are some of the motivations that we've seen and heard from our early partners about why they developed an instant app? We'll break them into 3 categories. The first one is about focusing on your current user base and optimizing their experience. And that's what we call conversion. The second one is thinking about new users that you can now reach. And the third one is completely new use cases. So again, for conversion, we think about your current users. And we're thinking, when we say conversion, we mean what metric are you really trying to optimize? So for your current users, many of you have told me that your native app is one of your best properties, and you want more users going to your native app. So of your current user base, you're actually opening up accessibility of your current user base to actually dive into that native app. So we launched recently with Jet, and they're seeing great numbers of the likelihood of a user now purchasing when they land on the Instant app has increased significantly by double digits. Reach is about top of the funnel, reaching more users that haven't even seen your property before. This is true for a lot of app-first developers. So you can imagine for a lot of app-first developers, they're thinking, most of my discovery happens on the Play Store. I'm getting most of my users from installed users. And the question is, can we expand that surface area? Can we reach new users that you haven't reached in the past? And if you're thinking about now URLs as a way to onboard into your experience, you're basically increasing that surface area across the internet for new users to actually interface with your native app experience. We've seen this especially with Castbox. The podcasts, for a podcast, oftentimes, I listen to it actually every day. I listen to a podcast, and I love Castbox. And I don't always want to share my podcasts with people because I'm not sure if they listen to podcasts, and I don't know what their experience is going to look like. But now when I share a URL, I know that they're going to dive right into that same native app experience that I'm experiencing, and I know that's a great experience. So my propensity to share has increased. Finally, there are new use cases that we're excited to see what the people in this room start to think about and develop now that there's no install friction and there's not as much friction between the physical and digital world. So you can imagine when you go to a baseball game, a museum, and you want a map for the day, you're not likely to install an app. Or if you go to the baseball game and you have an option to order food to your seat, but you're like, I don't want to install an app, I'm just going to go to the concession stand. We've removed a lot of that friction, so there are opportunities to onboard users, and we're thinking here things like QR codes, beacons, NFC, new ways to get the user into your experience. And we've been calling these companion apps, and we're really excited to see what you guys all develop in this room. If you go to our sandbox today, you'll actually see some of our early partners actually developing these type of experiences. So, at this point, hopefully you're now excited and motivated to start developing an Instant app. So what should you start thinking about alongside the development? What are the guiding principles that will help you develop an Instant app? There are 5 guiding principles. The first one is the idea of one app. We like to think of Instant apps and installed apps as one app that run in 2 different modes. I often like to compare Instant apps to the streaming version of music. You're breaking up the albums into songs and then streaming each song. It's very similar to what you'll do with Instant apps. When you're on the plane, you download music to your phone, so you have offline access. But when you're sitting at home, you don't think about, what music do I have on my phone today? You're actually just accessing all the music that you have access to. And you're not thinking, oh, I have to download this or not. So going back to the one app concept, we want to think of Instant apps as the same app, only being used on demand. From an engineering standpoint, that's exactly what it will feel like. Again, one code base, one project, all the features you already use in your installed app in your Instant app. In Android 3.0, Android Studio 3.0, we ensure just that with high code reuse between your installed app and your Instant app. Now, again, we'll go in depth into the actual development of an Instant app at our technical session later at 3:30 p.m., which I encourage you all to go to. And there we'll actually develop an Instant app live in less than 40 minutes. But as you can see here, just from this diagram, all the features from your installed app are now present in your Instant app. And all that you've done is broken them up so that now a user can access Feature 1 module with not necessarily having to download and install Feature 2 module. But from an installed app standpoint, it's the same app, it's the same output, and so it's the same experience from an installed app. Nothing's changed. From the user standpoint, you're thinking about the same UI, navigation, and flows. A lot of developers ask me, should I just develop a trial app? That is not the goal. You should not be thinking of developing a trial Instant app. Drawing back on the music analogy, ideally the user doesn't know if they're in an instant app or installed app, because the content is the same. All those rich experiences and all those great features that you have in your installed app, you want to pull over to your instant app. And it's really important because if a user ever goes from your instant app to your installed app, you want as little relearning as possible. There's no onboarding process. The user already knows what this app does, and they understand all your features. And we've received a lot of positive data for Vimeo, which I think has done a great job. They pulled all their features into their instant app. And they're seeing that of users coming to their experience, they stay longer, they go deeper, and they get more engaged. And so they've also seen double-digit increase in engagement. The next 3 sections, I'll talk about what happens once you're in an instant app. So let's enter the app. Before, you might have thought of having one flow, because you're downloading, let's say, a monolithic app, and there's only one flow that the user can go through. That's now changed with instant apps. You've actually now think about side entry points into your instant app. So you have to think about what that flow feels like. If someone just sends me an URL, and I don't know exactly what the instant app is going to be, and I click it, if I hit a sign-up flow, I might be surprised. I might not understand what the actual value proposition yet is for that app. So you want to think of where across the internet a user could actually enter the app through text, social media, ads, all these different mechanisms that a user can come in, and what is the context when they actually click that app, and you want to account for that when you're thinking about the flow. If someone sends me a recipe, I want to drop into that recipe. If someone sends me a video, I want to drop into the exact video. Search integration is also present in instant apps. So you want to think about what happens when a user lands into your page from search. Here, I actually did a search of my hometown in Franklin, Michigan, and you see Zillow come up 3 times as an instant app. So what has Zillow done? They said, you're searching for this area. You're probably interested in a property. I'm going to make sure my instant app dives you into a specific property on Sunset Drive. And there are 3 relevant properties for me. I click into that I click that link, and I dive right into the native app experience. Now, side entry is important, but you're also going to have to think about home entry still. This was shown at the developer keynote yesterday of actually getting to use in Android O, integration with Launcher allows you to launch instant apps from the home screen. So here you can see I typed in NY. It gives me a recommendation of New York Times crossword instant app. I click that, or actually I pull that onto my home screen, and now when I click it, it actually dives me into the home screen of the crossword puzzle. It doesn't dive me directly into the crossword puzzle because it's thinking about the context of the user and them driving into the home screen of that native app. So oftentimes when we think about instant apps, we think about install friction. But there's friction that we're trying to solve with instant apps across the native app experience. We want to remove all friction points that we've heard from developers. So sign-in is one, where I mentioned it on a few slides ago, where sometimes you're asked to sign in when you have no idea what the app is about. Other times, with purchasing, you might not have a credit card around, yet you still want to purchase. How can we remove those friction points from apps? So as I mentioned before, sign-in sometimes happens up front with monolithic or with installable apps because you've already gone through a friction point. You know exactly the user flow the user is going through, so you decide to have them sign in up front. But when users are coming through the side entry, you might not want a sign-in to happen right then. So we've actually had a number of our partners who in their installed app had mandatory sign-in up front, had removed that and decided to put sign-in at a point in the flow where they felt that the user understood why they would be signing in and the value of signing in. Instant Apps also uses Smart Lock for Android, which allows you to continue to be signed in between Android, Chrome, and desktop. Chrome and Chromebooks, as well as continue to be signed in between instant app sessions. For purchasing, there's digital purchasing and physical purchasing. Digital purchasing is very similar to what you experience, or it's identical to what you experience in installed app. there's in-app billing that you'll continue to use with Instant Apps. For physical purchases, we're actually really excited to talk about Google Payment API. Some of you may have already heard about it in the developer keynote where Assistant mentioned it. And there was also another session specifically talking about the Google Payment API. We're really excited to have this as part of Instant Apps. So there are hundreds of millions of cards that Google already has on file. And when you're thinking about a user now entering an Instant App, a lot of time they're a new user. They might not have a form of payment or a credit card on file with you yet. But they potentially have a form of payment on file with Google. Now they can access that Google Payment API and access that credit card. Here you see that Jet is using this Google Payment API. And I just click Pay, and the Google Payment API, or the Google Pay, shows up. It already has my credit card information. It already has my shipping information. And with just a few clicks, I'm already done with my purchase. So when I mentioned before that Jet is seeing an increased propensity for users to purchase when they land in the Instant App, and they're seeing these great numbers, what I'm wondering is how much of that is from the decreasing install friction, and how much is it from decreasing the payment friction? And as we get more and more data, I'm really excited to parse that out and really understand how much value is coming from each. But right now, as Jet has told us, they're seeing significant increase in purchases. I also want to mention that we don't want you adding additional friction points. With our early partners, we did a lot of testing. We tried different stuff out. And we realized that the thing we want to do is get the user to that action that they came to do as quickly as possible. Some early partners tried splash screens. Others tried a lot of installation prompts. And we just think getting rid of all of these friction points allows for a very smooth experience. So the user has had this great experience in your Instant App. They've really enjoyed it, and now they want to install. For a number of reasons, maybe they want to do offline usage. That is fine. We actually encourage installation in that case. So let's talk about what that experience looks like when a user chooses to install. First of all, we've actually decreased the friction point of installing in the Instant App. There's this new API, Play Install API, that allows you to install inline when you're in an Instant App. So in this case, I'm playing a Red Bull video. I'm watching some BMXer. And I think this video is awesome, and I really want to have this for offline usage. So I installed there, and it allows me to install online without having to go to the Play Store. What you also want to take into account is copying that user information from the Instant App to the installed app, so you know what in this case, their video history was, and you can actually put them right back into the video they were watching when they hit Open Installed App. Now, let's talk about the ways that you can actually prompt a user to install. There are two ways. The first one is explicit installations. This means that the user knows that they're about to install if they hit that button, because it says install. The second one is implicit installations. These are when you click a button in the Instant App, and the feature might not be available, like offline viewing. So you prompt the user, if you'd like to use this feature, please install. So let's talk about both tools that we have for driving installation. The first one, as I mentioned, is an explicit installation. You include the install string and the install icon here that you can see that Amber Weather did a great job with. And they embed it in their UI. What is Amber Weather thinking? Well, they want the user to get the information they came for, which is the weather. They want to show all these great things that they have within their app. But now if the user wants to install, the button is right there. But it feels really part of their UI. Wish does a great job of including it in their navigation drawer. It's not disruptive, and it's very easy for the user, if they want to install right there. Implicit installations, as I mentioned, is when you click a button in the Instant App, and that feature is not yet available. Vimeo, for example, has offline viewing, and Yummly has some personalized information, personalized things that they do that they would only like in the installed app. That's great. That's fine. So here you see that it prompts the user to install, and it gives context to why the user has to install. Again, early partners have tried both explicit and implicit installations. We just encourage you not to make it disruptive, and for the user to really know to be able to do the action they came to do. And if they choose to continue and potentially want to install, that you give them an option to do so. So You've built this amazing app, this amazing instant app that mirrors your installed app. You have thought about all the different entry points and the different flows that are important to account for. And you've thought about decreasing friction from identity to payments to installation. So now you're ready to track your success. What does that look like? Well, first you need to upload your instant app to the Play console. This is going to feel very similar to your installed app. We have 3 different tracks. There's the development track, the pre-release track, and the prod track. And this allows you to do some testing up front and make sure that you're ready for production. Also, the latest update that you push will go directly to your users. We'll serve it directly to the user, so if they click that URL, you get the updated instant app. We're also big proponents of experimentation, so we included something called the mobile holdback. And we love this idea. This allows you to hold back a percentage of your traffic to go to the mobile web. So if I put in 20% of your traffic will go to the mobile web, and 80% of your traffic will go to instant apps. This enables you to do testing and experimentation. We know that you've optimized for years and years your native app experience, you've optimized your mobile website, and you've optimized your desktop. And we want to make sure we give you the tools to now optimize instant apps and try to make it the best property that you can. So let's talk about now what type of metrics you'll now be tracking in the instant app that might be different than how you thought about with installed apps. So I've showed 2 flows up here. One is where you start in an installed app with the Play Store, you install your app, you then sign up, you then browse and engage with the content of the native app, and then potentially purchase. For instant apps, a few of these start to flip around. First, you're entering the instant app from a URL. You then can immediately engage without signing up, and you actually can purchase without signing up in e-commerce for the e-commerce category. And you won't necessarily install. So you have to start thinking about what are different metrics that you now track that are important in instant apps. First, you probably want to separate installed apps and instant apps when you're tracking just to see different behavior. Maybe a user who's a first visitor for your installed app acts differently for your first visit for your instant app. And that's because you're actually creating different flows. The user might be coming through a side door, so that user in that context might act differently. You also might now think about signed-in users versus non-signed-in users. So some of our partners only had signed-in users before, and now that they've pulled that out or moved it to a different point in their instant app, they're going to have non-signed-in users. You also have to think about URL traffic sources, which you might not have considered in the past. Now, Google Analytics for Firebase has you covered. We've worked for months with Google Analytics for Firebase to make sure that all these metrics start to be tracked for your instant app. They are continuing to work with us to put additional tracking and think through additional complex metrics that make sense in instant apps. For our early partners, a lot of them have actually used their current analytics SDK. So now that we're opening documentation today, we're excited to talk to more analytics providers and start thinking about more metrics that we need to start including in the SDK. So with all that these partners have shared with me, I've noticed actually a shift. When they first started with instant apps, they often talked to me about installation. And there has been a shift in our conversation where we talk a lot more about engagement. Because as I showed in the flow before, it used to be that in order to see your success metrics, you would have to install first. So installation became a proxy for success. But we've kind of flipped that around. And now developers are saying, how do I optimize the tickets purchased? How do I optimize the flights found? How about watch hours? And how about time spent reading football articles? So all of this has changed a bit. And we're excited to see how you guys start thinking about metrics in a different way. So let's recap. First, I talked through that anyone can now build an instant app. So you can go to g.co/instant apps and download the SDK and view the documentation. Secondly, I talked about what the big motivation is for partners developing an instant app. It's thinking about your current users, thinking about new users, and thinking about completely new use cases. The third thing I talked about is what you should keep in mind as guiding principles as you, in parallel, do development. Talked about one app, different entry points, decreasing friction from identity to payments to installation, as well as new metrics. There are 2 talks that I'd really encourage you to go to today. The first one is at 3:30, with Shobana and Anirudh will be actually taking you through a live instant app development in 40 minutes. So it's really exciting, and I really encourage you to learn how they're actually going to take an installed app and turn it into an instant app. Also, I've done my best to channel the developer voice from talking to all our early partners, but it's much better to hear directly from our partners. So I encourage you to go to Maru's talk, who's the lead developer relations manager for Instant Apps, and she'll have on the panel CastBox, Vimeo, Deliveroo, Zillow, and Periscope, and they'll talk about their experience, and you'll learn best practices. So thank you, everyone. I'm so glad you all came. And I'm happy to take any questions from you now. And also, please visit us in Sandbox Dome C, and I'll be there also to answer additional questions after the talk. Thank you.